it has started some decline. But look at where it got to, And you see, we have been told by Baumia that when your fundamentals are weak, you will be exposed by the exchange rate. You'll be exposed by inflation. The macroeconomic indicators will expose you. And that's what is happening now. So, look, there cannot be hope. The president himself has checked out. If anybody had any hope that, look, in this last year, there will be, some respite. The president himself has told us that, look, let's wait for the next leader. He has checked out. He's given up. Look, if there was any magic wand, if they had any panacea, to our economic conundrum, they will have, brought it to bear over the last 7 years. It is not this bye-bye budget, this Daye budget, as some people are calling it.
You call it Daye budget?
That is going to, because, look, as the minority leader said, very empty budget. This is the first time in living memory that Ghana has defaulted. We are even struggling to keep up with the IMF program.
Who tells you that? Where are you getting that information from, that we are failing to keep up with the IMF program? All the quantitative indicators, 6 of them, we met all of them. The qualitative criteria, the reform, almost all of it have been met. 18 months after you implemented the IMF program on you didn't meet even one criteria. So what are we talking about? Look. I was clear in my initial submission that between 2017 and 2020, COVID onset, we had underlying conditions. But our economy was doing well. True or false? This is reality.
How do you define well?
Of course.
When you set up a
GDP growth rate,
when
average 7%. Money currency.
Debt to GDP.
See, what was debt to GDP? That's why we said that, look, between that period, when we came into government, if you look at our regular revenue and expenditure, we were doing consistently below the 5% fiscal responsibility act that we have passed in this chamber, correct? But there were exceptional items that had to be incurred outside our control. And so, to be transparent, we submitted a documentation to Parliament and reported those figures below the line. There were obligations that the government had to contract necessarily to pay for the energy sector bill that you had contracted and to clean up the banking sector that you had failed to clean up. I hear them talk of some 9 billion that was needed. What document have you seen that contains a 9 billion that was required to clean up banking sector? So, have you ever set eyes on any document to that effect? So those issues notwithstanding, this economy was doing well. We had underlying conditions, we had issues. That's why the onset of COVID impacted us more than they did to your neighbors whose economy are controlled from France. Come on. What are we talking about? What's the monetary policy of Togo, Burkina Faso, and Ivory Coast? It's all determined in France. We have a very liberalized economy, okay? And this country was doing relatively better than COVID came. But we are where we are. We're saying that, yes, the impact of the pandemic affected us more than other countries because of our own peculiar circumstances. Because obviously, Togo and Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast did not have banking sector costs that their government had to bear. We did. So how do you expect that the impact of COVID was going to be the same on us and them? Togo, Burkina Faso and Ivory Coast did not have any banking sector issues that the government had to borrow huge sums of money to deal with. We did. So the impact of COVID on us would obviously be different from what it is that they will have on our neighbors. But look at the figures today. Are we, post the IMF program that we went to salvage our economy and put it back on foot, are we making a 10 or not? It's what the Ghanaian people will make a determination and say that, look, yes, we've seen the challenges that this government has had to go through. We know the sacrifice that the good people of this country have had to make, but I fail to see how a restructuring of your obligations amounts to a default. How is that determined? So please, look, I know that for you, the opposition, you will see nothing good about this budget, which is fair. It's up to you, okay, to pick and choose what you think that the performance of this government or the mark of this government ought to be. But the good people of this country, the greater majority of us who are dispassionately looking at the issues, okay, would see clearly that this budget offers hope, It's clearly demonstrating a government that understands the issues, that is working assiduously to ensure that the issues are resolved. And I'm set that by the time that we get to mid-year next year into election 2024, the goodwill of this country will keep faith with the MPP and retain us in government to continue the good work that we've started.
About the macroeconomic indicators that the finance minister made reference to. These indicators we're talking about, the improvements has been as a result of a lot of the sacrifices that the Ghanaian people have had to make.
Without a doubt, yes.
Because the impact of the DDEP cannot be underestimated.
No, not at all.
And then also, even with this over 50 billion as a result of, that's the Bank of Ghana's own haircut.
So the question is, how did we get there? It's irrelevant?
It is
inconsequential?
It is relevant and very consequential.
Look, we live in a country, right? We live in a country. Maybe those who have short memory can choose to stay in that terrain. I'm not. Issues in China in 2012, 13, 14, which was used as reason for going to IMF. You've forgotten. You've forgotten. All of a sudden, we have all forgotten. Look, the issues that confront us today are real. Nobody, the president has admitted it. The finance minister has admitted it. The vice president that they are happy to always tag has admitted that we have challenges. But I'm saying that how is it that a country that was relatively doing better pre-2020 all of a sudden has gotten to where it is that it is? Recall that in 2020 the president was clear in his mind that look, the economy we know how to fix. This is not the time that we're going to deal with economic fundamentals or indicators. We're going to put everything aside and focus on protecting Ghanaian lives and livelihoods. And the decisions that were taken at the time has impacted our economic performance today. What was our solution post-COVID? We said, look, you go to the IMF, they will tell you cut expenditure, and you've seen clearly the expenditure measures that were introduced in 2023 that is yielding results. So we're going to do that on our own. You go to the IMF, they will tell you that raise revenue. You see the prior actions that introduce new revenue measures up to 0.9%
which has created the burden for the business community.
So the government says, let's raise revenue internally. We sat in this chamber and callously breached Section 22 of the Public Financial Management Act, which enjoins Parliament to do three things by 31st December. One, approve the budget. Two, pass appropriations. And three, pass every legislation that is required to implement the budget. Is that what happened in 2021 in this chamber? You don't recall that we passed the budget, we passed the appropriation, which is only authorization to spend, and refused blatantly to pass the consequential revenue measures that was going to go to fund the budget. You saw the ratings agencies and the downgrade that happened to this country. Hence, the need for us to go to IMF. Now we say, let's take a complete step back, restructure our obligations that we owe so that we can reset the economy. And clearly, that is exactly what the finance minister has achieved with the IMF-backed program of economic recovery that has been approved, that we are implementing successfully as far as I'm concerned at this point.
Okay, well, I don't know how we're going to talk on this particular issue.
It is important for us to put things in proper perspective and be very clear. In 2017, 2018, 2019, we were under an IMF program. So all the gains that were made, it was because we were under an IMF program. This crop of MPP leaders have been exposed that when they are not under an IMF program, and you see, I feel very sad as a young politician that how long will we keep depending on external control, external masters? We say that we are independent. We say that we are against colonialism. We don't want neo-colonialism. And I think that, look, it gets to a point where we must have, particularly with the young ones, must have a dispassionate discussion. When the MPP was allowed to manage this economy out of an IMF program, they were a spectacular failure, abysmal performance. So nobody should distort the reality. And you see, anybody listening to us today knows that Our friends are good at throwing around euphemisms. When they mention, oh, we've decided to take a backstage, step back, and restructure, what they are simply saying is that we were not in the position to pay our debts. We could not service our debts because we have abysmally performed. Look, as I speak to you, do you know that road contractors are owed more than 15 billion cedis? As I speak to you, District Assembly Common Fund is in arrears. Get Fund is in arrears. These funds have totally collapsed. Health insurance, totally collapsed. Cash and carry is virtually back.
Really?
There are some hospitals now, they don't, yes. I mean, that is a reality. I mean, talk to those who are managing the fund. I mean, we are all here. What we approve, even after capping, even after you have capped, you have decapitulated these funds. You cannot even release funds to them. This economy has been run aground. We all know it. What happened to the NAPCO guys? As we speak, they were asked to go home. Their arrears have not been paid. What is happening to newly trained nurses, newly graduated teachers? They are at home. Now even doctors have to wait for many months to be engaged. So if you talk to young people in this country, they are totally angry at the high levels of mismanagement, which has virtually wrecked their future and destroyed any hope that they had. That is why people are leaving this country in droves. We are losing great talent, young, inspirational people who could have been kept here to help us, impressionable Ghanaians who could have helped us to transform our lot. He talks about, please, I'm not done. He talks about the fact that our neighbors are supported by France. How about the Anglophone neighbors we have? He conveniently leaves them out. Is Nigeria doing a debt restructuring? Are we seeing any financial haircuts? Where on this continent are we seeing the pain, the anguish that this Akufo-Addo government has brought upon us? Where? Mention one country. So you cannot seek refuge. And you see, the irony, these are the people not too long ago in opposition. You remember that Ivory Coast was a very, very favorite reference point. At the time, they didn't know that monetary policy is managed in Paris. They didn't care about the whole Francophone arrangement, which gives them some buffers. But they kept telling us, at the least opportunity, they remind you that, see what is happening in Ivory Coast. Across all sectors, they will reference Ivory Coast. Today, they say we cannot do same. We can't hold them by their own yardstick, that we shouldn't go to Ivory Coast. In any case, there are over 22 billion that they spent on the financial sector cleanup. Who put a gun to their head to adopt that approach? Weren't you following the debate in this house when we cautioned that that was the nuclear option? It was such a reckless path that don't go down that road.
What was the alternative? Yes.
We pointed out the alternative. We said don't collapse these banks.
Right.
Adopt the approach we had put in place, where you do liquidity support, identify
which was squandered like people's private money.
Identify those who were doing the squandering. You can prosecute them.
You were in government when they were squandering the money.
You can prosecute them. Don't please let me conclude. Let me conclude.
Absolutely nothing.
Please. I am not done. You decided that you will engage in this approach, which increased government expenditure. Now, when you come to discuss government expenditure, you must also be comprehensive about it. Who asked President Akufo-Addo to appoint over 100 ministers? All those amorphous, nebulous ministries and assigns and agents who were appointed, even at the presidency. Who asked them to do that? projects that had absolutely no relevance to economic transformation. I can continue? You remember how much has been revealed went into that National Cathedral hole. 339 million Ghana cedis. And all we see is the world's most expensive pit. Who forced them to do that? Who compelled them to do that? Presidential travels, 20,000 euros an hour. And you remember my running battles until the president stopped recently. So we have a group of leaders who decided that they will not be disciplined. As for fiscal discipline is not in their vocabulary. They will spend like there's no tomorrow, have a bloated government, historic levels of appointments. We've never had 100 ministers as a country. Okay. We've never seen the number of presidential staffers that this government has. And you see, all of this have an impact on your ability to deliver on the actual needs, the felt needs of the people. So if today the people can't see the roads, the people can't see the hospitals, take La General Hospital, which they demolished and cannot construct. It is because of these things. Because you always have limited resources.
Right.
And if you decide that your priority is National Cathedral, your priority is chartered travels, this is what we get.
Thank you. Now, the debate on this budget has just begun. I tell you what.
You allow me to talk about the allocation for the victims of the VRA-induced floods. It's very important.
Yes. In a minute, because we have to.
Because that is a significant development, and I think that in this entire budget, that's the only positive that I would like to highlight. Except that I'll be cautiously optimistic, because you see, there's a world of difference between allocation and actual release. Yes. So the 220 million for the first phase of relief is positive, is worth highlighting. We are looking forward to the second phase, which the finance minister describes as the restoration phase. He mentions two things: that they are looking at increasing the allocation to the Agric Ministry to help us with livelihoods, because a lot of my people are farmers. Then the second option he gives is the application they have made to the World Bank to help us with the resettlement and compensation. So those are positive developments. I think that my chiefs and people will welcome it, and all those in the affected communities will welcome it.
This program is rated PG. It contains scenes of brief nudity, mild violence, and strong language. Parental guidance is advised.
Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen. Yet to Kano, get it bow. So when you know, no, am I in here? Yet to Kano, get it bow. So when you know, yeah, my share. Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen. Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's Kitchen, Mac Brown's kitchen. Bring us all. Yet to Kano, get it bow. So when you know I'm in here. Yet to Kano, get it bow. So when you get my share. Mac Brown's kitchen. Again, the Mac Brown's kitchen. Mac Brown's kitchen. Again, the Mac Brown's kitchen. Mac Brown's kitchen. Mac Brown's kitchen.
Mac Brown's kitchen. Arena so abusiafo ye tukano ye ba agbetipo ye nimunuenti ye ba benwa amaye di Mac Brown's kitchen ediane pa ede ena abusiafo mu hu ya ye wo agbetipo e wo Volta region ye nyina yim atorenchema ato Ghana fo ato Volta region fo ani